Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 79 of Speaking from the Heart. And have you lost momentum yet because of the new year and the new you that you were trying to work on? I know, it's always going to happen inevitably. As a matter of fact, many studies have shown that most people quit within the first few weeks, let alone the first month of the new year, every time that they set themselves New Year's resolutions. And now that we're more than already halfway through the first month of 2024, and soon approaching February for that matter, I'm sure that you're asking yourself the question of, will I ever get back on track with what I intended to do? We all have setbacks, and there are all things that we need to be able to try to gain more momentum, especially as we enter the next several months. But all is not lost, and I hope that today's episode will speak to you about the importance of breaking down those big, hairy, audacious goals that you have set for yourself for the new year and be able to get back on track for the things that really count the most. Now, I know that before we entered the new year, we had a lot of episodes that talked about getting ready, being able to prepare for what's ahead. And I highly encourage that you go back and listen to some of those episodes, because not only will that remind you of happier times, the Christmas season perhaps, or even the expectation or the feeling that you had for the new year, but it will help you to re-engage and get into the mindset that you need to have in order to accomplish what you want to set out to do. It's not easy to get back after all the obstacles, the setbacks, and even the challenges that might have existed previously, because they might be still floating around and might be holding you back from even accomplishing some of the things that you want to do right now. So let's look at today some of the things that you might have on your plate and being able to break it down into more manageable tasks. Some of the things I even talk about with my clients even relate to what we're going to accomplish now. And it's really about breaking things down into small, manageable tasks. Many times when people set goals, they don't break down the minor details as to what actual steps need to be accomplished in order to achieve those opportunities. It could be as simple as even setting aside time on your calendar to be able to do such goals. I know that for many of us, we might rely on our calendar to not only provide that time in which we need to have, but even just being able to say that this is the dedicated amount of time that I'm going to be utilizing for this goal can make such a big difference. Authors do that all the time, especially when they have to block out time for writing the chapters that they have in their book, especially if they are pressed to get the book done. Another way in which you can look at this is, how can we work on the things that we have by ensuring that not only our time management is on par, but how can we use that to our advantage, especially when we have the tasks that we need to do? Many corporations use what's called a Gantt chart. Now, if you ever used a Gantt chart, you're very much familiar with the time blocks that happen. And I chuckle to myself because I work with them consistently with my full-time job. And I often have to look at the time factors that are involved with each task within the overall processes that need to be done. Not only does it involve other people, but it also involves other resources that need to be blocked off so that it is accomplished within a certain time frame. For you, think of each goal as a big project that you're working on. Sure, some of them might not require months on end to accomplish, but think of your time as being broken down, whether it's in weeks, days, hours, maybe even minutes of being able to do the certain things that you need to accomplish on the day-to-day. Oftentimes, people don't know how to block out that time that is really important to be able to work on those factors in order to accomplish that bigger overarching goal that they wish to achieve. When you set your expectations too high, that is the reason why most people don't know how to get back on track, even falling flat on their goals that they've set for the new year. So my best advice to you, if you haven't done it already, is to break down in smaller, manageable tasks what you can do within the time frames that you have available to you. Now, even with that said, I know that many of you are still asking yourself of how to actually block that time off when you don't even know how much to really block off. It's simple. Not only are you making sure that you spend the time that is needed on the things that you need to accomplish with each of those tasks, but even if you estimate and you are able to project what that time is, you can always go back and modify it. Now, don't be the person that always modifies it, because then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You should be really working on then a bigger role model in your life, which might be even a coach, like myself for that matter. But to do it yourself means you have to have consistent discipline time and time again of the things that you need to be able to do on a daily basis. Each day is unique in itself. For me, I know that every Monday I have to go in the office. I have to put that time aside and not being able to really work as much on the business as I really want to. But I know that for the rest of the week, even though I have to work, there is still some time during lunch, before I start my day, and even after my day, in which I can cram in as much as I possibly can to be able to help my coaching business thrive. So it's about not only utilizing that time wisely, but knowing that I have it ahead of time will allow me to block off chunks that are needed for administrative things, maybe for something with my books that I have to take care of, my bookkeeper or accountant, maybe even working with my marketing person to ensure that I'm continuing to advocate and advertise Your Speaking Voice LLC. But that allows me to have the time to work creatively, whether it's working on the podcast or working on new projects or clients for that matter that are coming through my office or even online. If I know what my daily flow is, I can start to interwork those different aspects. And I know that might seem simpler to some people, but for a large amount of us, especially those that are neurodivergent, that can be quite a challenge. As a matter of fact, I have a few clients that are neurodivergent in nature that they require that structure. They need to know exactly what they need to do to lay out their days, and we give them the tools here at Your Speaking Voice to help them provide that opportunity for themselves. But even with time being considered, you have to think about what are the other things that might get in the way. Well, there might have been family. There might have been unexpected occurrences. I know for myself, I was very sick at the beginning of the year, which I often have joked to other people that I can only go up from here as a result. But it did set me back a little bit on terms of the momentum and the patience that I had with really doing a lot of things, including even recording podcast episodes for that matter. But even with that being a factor in which I couldn't do a lot of things that I wanted to do, I adjusted my schedule so that I could make up some ground, knowing that I have to make a little bit of sacrifice. And sacrifice sometimes is the biggest challenge for many of us to be able to create that new momentum that we have. Now, it's been proven through science and many other studies that it takes a few days to at least start to create that habit. But to have a sustaining habit, you have to do it for a few weeks. You have to properly train your brain in order to learn and create those systemic exercises of muscle memory, being able to do that routine and build it into your repertoire so that you're able to create whatever you're trying to create. So don't be ashamed or discouraged if it doesn't work the first time. Failure is always okay. We have had plenty of guests on this show that have even talked about the concept of failure and how many times they had to get back on the horse and just keep on trying. But even with those things considered, talking about time and knowing that failure is going to happen might not just be enough. So what is the magic pill, you might be asking, that you need to swallow, that you might be hearing from me, your podcast host, to be able to help you get to that next level? Well, there isn't one exact magic formula. And the reason for even saying that is because all of our goals are different. Say that you're trying to go to the gym in a more consistent manner. I totally understand that you really want to work on your physical health. But depending on what your schedule is, whether you can actually drive to the gym, whether you can accommodate with your family, whether you can accommodate with the relationships that you're forming, whether you have a deadline for work, There are many different factors that we might need to look at from a coaching perspective to help you make sure that you stay on track and keep yourself accountable. However, on the other side of it, most people that are looking to be fit and are already doing that routine and just are looking to enhance their structure a little bit better than they already are, means that you have to just look at what you already have existing and making minor tweaks here and there. Not one person is cut from the same cookie cutter. And that is something that is so very important in order to make sure that you keep that positive momentum going, especially if you have already lost it for the year 2024. It isn't just about the things that you are trying to accomplish, but it's really about understanding that you might be stuck in the mundane, that things that are often easy for others to do might not be as easy for you. So here's my pat on the back to make sure that you get back up and keep on running. It's okay to know that you might not always succeed, and that effort, where it might be easier for others, requires a lot more energy for other people to put in to be able to accomplish what they're setting out to do. It's just as simple as putting it in this context. I know that my gifts are not in music and in the arts because I certainly cannot sing or play an instrument, although I really would love to play an instrument, particularly the guitar one day. But I know that I also can't draw accurately or coherently. I can draw a mean stick figure of myself and possibly of you, but that's about the extent of how far I'm able to go. It's because I know that I haven't been gifted in those practices. Those things, which everybody is able and capable of being taught, means that I had chosen at a young age to not be involved with any of those types of activities. I do not find any sort of satisfaction unless I'm able to work from an adult coloring book and color in between the lines, which even sometimes for me, I have a hard time coloring within those lines because I see gray, not just black and white. But I know that for many of us, it's not just as simple as putting it all together and being able to push forward. You need to be able to find something that will help you to stay on track. Now, if you went on Facebook or any sort of social media platform that's tracking your searches and all kinds of other things, I'm sure that you've been bombarded with New Year's goals and New Year deals and try this and you'll be ready in 30 days or less. But those are all gimmicks, because if you really want to work on something that really changes who you are, you will set aside the time, you will set aside the resources, but more importantly, you will find a way, no matter what, to make that habit come alive. It all boils down to this. Even if we have all the momentum in the world to keep on pushing forward, we have to understand that there are a lot of challenges when it comes to just being able to see what's at the end of the tunnel. What's at the end of the tunnel can be scary. It could be very frightful. And I know for many of us, change is very scary, which in later episodes, we'll certainly talk about that concept of scariness and change, because I know that it can be a very fearful subject. It's the very basis in which much of my coaching work is done on. But if we're able to remove the obstacles, the setbacks, the challenges that exist ahead, and we break it down into smaller items like I've mentioned before, we can make short work of those things that are mundane and help ourselves to keep pushing forward. If there was anything that I could ever recommend to somebody is if you don't have the affordability to hire a coach, find somebody that will at least check in with you. Maybe they can help you understand a lot more about what you are as a person and maybe ask some questions as to why has been some setbacks, especially when it comes to developing this plan that you have. I know that you might feel a sense of failure, especially as you have gone a few weeks now into setting your goals, whether they are physical, whether they are mental, whether they are social, regardless of what it is. Start with the small things. If you're able to just check off some of those small aspects that you really wanted to do, that can help to build that momentum back up in you again. Even if it's just as simple as writing that letter to somebody that you've been putting off for so long. having that sense of accomplishment by just sitting down for 30 minutes and writing it, maybe up to an hour of writing it, can make such a big difference in not just what you feel about yourself, but what that other person will feel about you. So if you add the feelings that you have plus the person is that you're impacting, imagine how much extra momentum you can create from just those types of relationship building activities and being able to simply check off a small item on your list. There are a variety of different types of software, let alone productivity boards that you can write out on your own, available on the internet, along with other sort of productivity activities in itself. You ever heard of a combi board? That could be one way in which you track all your things. But even just doing the small things on that combi board can make such a big difference in the bigger scheme of things. But regardless of any board, tracker, software, regardless of what it is, remember, you are okay to fail. I know that for many things that we've talked about on this podcast, it's been about momentum, encouragement, relationships, confidence, and determination, being able to become the best versions of ourselves. But I know that we often forget about the fact that there's a human element to this, that even putting this into practice can be so tough for all of us to be able to achieve. But what if we start to break down those small little things that we can achieve and make them easily accessible for not only ourselves, but for others as well? Imagine the amount of impact that we can make by just a small little sacrifice, a small little task, maybe just changing the type of food that we put in our bodies, even if it's just a 1 teaspoon less of sugar in our coffee, or tea for that matter, can make such a big difference in not just the way that we feel, not just in the way that we engage, but in the way in which we have our momentum build up. As we are based on momentum, and moving forward is so important, especially in this day and age. I know that we're not getting any younger, and I know that even as you're listening to this, you might be thinking of all of the insurmountable things that you have to do to get back on track with your New Year's goals. But here I am, cheerleading you again and making sure that you accomplish them because I believe in you. And I've always have believed in you, even when you listen to some of those past episodes in which I've told you that I believe in you. Because it isn't just about learning from others. It's not just about saying what's on my mind. It's not just saying what is really important to hear, especially in a particular day or occurrence. It's about realizing that you have everything to gain, but also everything to lose. But even when you lose, you still win. So dust yourself off, get ready to build that momentum, and let's tackle 2024 once and for all. Consider the last few weeks as your trial period. Now is your time to not just make short work of the mundane, but make sure that that positivity that I've given you keeps on pushing forward, because I want to see you succeed in more ways than one. Thanks for listening to episode number 79 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.